Welcome to Take It Off, the podcast where we ditch the heavy layers and get real about who we truly are beneath it all. I'm Julie, and together with my co-host and friend Jess, we'll share our own stories and explore the triumphs and tribulations of being a woman in today's world. Let's get real, have some laughs, and inspire each other to embrace our true selves. Welcome to Take It Off. We're back for part 2 of our series. Can we call it a series?
I think a
Mini-series, our first mini-series on the pod. We're back for our second part of the burnout conversation. We had a really great dialogue last time around the stages of stress and burnout, and we left you hanging a little bit, but don't worry, we're back, and we've got some tactical tips to help you manage the stress cycle, complete the stress cycle, and even some fun self-discovery too.
In the clip that you're about to hear, we have just finished talking about the stress-burnout continuum, where essentially stress starts in a situation that feels a little bit like a honeymoon phase where you're still enjoying the work. It then moves into stress, chronic stress, burnout, and chronic burnout, at which point it's really, really hard to come back. So I will leave you here to enjoy the rest of the episode.
Once you get into that phase of like burnout and chronic burnout, once you know what to do to heal it, and I think we should talk about that.
Yeah.
You are a lot more susceptible to like burning out again though. So it's like, it's not like you ever totally heal. It's like you're always kind of just managing it so that your nervous system doesn't like flip back into burnout. Yeah.
It's interesting. I like how you explained all of those levels, because I think all I had thought about was stress, chronic stress, burnout. And I think probably because that's where I got to. I got to burnout. I don't know that I was in chronic burnout, but I was at burnout. So I guess the question is, how do you, especially if once you get to chronic burnout, you're more prone to it coming back, how do you stop it before you get there?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question.
Yeah.
So I think that it's I think there's 2 levels of like answers to that, 2 levels of like responses.
Sure.
And I think the first one is like the immediate response to stress.
Yeah.
And like, what do you need to do to process whatever it is in the moment that's creating like the heightened experience? How can you like process that out of your body? Because I think it's also worth noting like that there are a lot of like physical symptoms that can happen when you actually do when you start to experience pain at that level, or when you start to experience burnout. Like there's like heart problems that can come with it, chronic pain, inflammation, which leads to like a ton of our like you know chronic issues these days, most autoimmune diseases. So there is like a complete mind-body connection between that feeling of stress, but also like it's the actual like cortisol flowing through your body has like negative like effects too. So I think that beyond just calling it chronic burnout, and we know that that's something we want to avoid at all cost, because of like that, just like you just get stuck and depleted and you stop participating in your life, and everything just feels toxic. But it can also be like really physically damaging to your body too.
That's what I was gonna use that word, damaging. And you know, we are not doctors, we are not therapists. But I think there can be real like long-term damage to your overall health from chronic burnout. Like you mentioned some of them, but I've read even more rapid aging. You mentioned decreased immune system, inflammation, and just, you know, again, overall poor health.
Like memory problems, cognitive issues, like the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So how do you interrupt the cycle of burnout? And depending on where you are, like, and what level of healing you need from it, whether it's just a matter of like interruption or healing. Breathing for sure, in the moment and long term. Breathing, I think, is like the number one thing that you can do for your body. Taking deep breaths, learning breathing exercises, like It's like breathing in quickly and breathing out slower. There's, quick little exercises like that you can practice.
Yeah.
Practicing that pause. So before you react, just taking a moment to like take a breath or say a mantra to yourself, make a little note for yourself about like reminding yourself not to be triggered by your triggers. Do you have anything else to add for like immediate?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned, there's this interruption that you need, which is immediate. And then we'll talk more about like the long-term healing. I haven't read the book, but I've listened to them on a couple of podcast interviews that they've done. There's these two sisters, Emily and Amelia Nagoski, and they wrote a book called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And they talk a lot about how, like we said, stress is a biological reaction, right? And it goes all the way back to, like you said, like fight or flight. Like a lion is chasing you. You are stressed. You get away from the lion. Cycle completed, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But in today's world, our stressors, thankfully, are not lions anymore for most of us. It's not lions. It's the traffic jam on the way to work. It's our kids. It's money, it's work, right? Things that we can't fully escape. And frankly, maybe don't want to escape completely, right? So it's how do you complete that stress cycle? And so they talk a lot about it in their book. And some of it's what you already mentioned, breath work, taking the pause. But I love some of these other things, physical activity. And they mentioned one thing that, I'm not saying you have to like get on your Peloton and do a 45-minute class or run around the block, but just going for a walk. Just, they say like tightening your body for like 10 seconds and then releasing it is physical activity. I love this one, a hug, but not just any hug, a 20-second hug. So I don't know. Right now, I think I have 3 people. 3 people and a dog. That'll give me a 20-second hug.
Yeah.
But they are going to help me complete my stress cycle. Sleep. We can't say enough about that. A good cry. Like not necessarily about like what's going on in life right now, but like watching a sad movie. And then on the flip side, watching a funny movie and laughter, like from your belly laughter. And we've talked about this last one before, but creativity.
Yep. All of the creativity flowing is like what makes space for beautiful new things to come in. But it feels good, but it helps it, process out of your body.
Yeah.
So there's like three levels of like healing or release that you have to kind of take to move through these stress cycles depending on where you're at in your burnout, right? So immediate gratification are like the things like laughing, doing a workout, getting outside, a meditation, a mindfulness walk, anything like that. But I think, so taking it a step deeper is figuring out how to process the stress out of your body. A lot of times the stress is rooted in an emotion. And a lot of people don't, whether we're very emotionally aware or emotionally intelligent or not, we don't process emotion through our bodies the way that we're supposed to. Some of our nervous systems immediately take charge and say, oh, that's something that we're not going to deal with right now. And you push it to the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But our bodies don't like to feel uncomfortable. So anytime we're feeling uncomfortable feelings like fear, shame, anger is a huge one that we repress.
Yeah.
We're just like, I'm going to compartmentalize it, right?
Yeah.
And then we do. But compartmentalizing means going back and revisiting those things and figuring out, naming the emotion.
Yeah.
Maybe asking yourself, why was I feeling that? Maybe it's listening to music that helps you process anger or sadness. Journaling is definitely my favorite way of processing emotion because I think that once you get in that motion of writing, I can't tell you how many times my hand just like takes over and I end up somewhere that I never thought I'd be.
Yeah.
But there are always these little like micro realizations that help me like get that bigger picture like version of myself. So I think, we need that immediate interruption. Yeah. But deeper, we need to figure out how to actually like process the emotion out of our body.
Yeah.
And that's our minds and our bodies. Have you ever seen a dog after a stressful situation or a situation of like excitement with stress? They like shake.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like that's them processing the stress out of their bodies.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing that I've done for myself in the past like 2 years, like I got this vibration plate, and it's just like a little plate.
Oh.
It's like 2 feet by 1 foot or something like that. And you just stand on it. You can work out on it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, like, especially if I'm home and my kids are having like extra active, I don't know what the word is that I want to use. They're being wild and crazy and fighting.
They don't fight, Jess, do
no,
they?
they never. They don't.
Mine either.
We don't have to. That's not a stressor. But I would just stand on this plate and I just literally let my body shake.
Oh.
And it's amazing. And I can feel actually like in my hips. I think I store emotion in my hips. And when I just let the plate like do its thing, I step off of that and I'm like, wow, I forgot how it felt to feel this like light.
Yeah.
But okay, I digress. The last thing then, and the most important thing, is identifying the source of the burnout. And so all of the other things are like a Band-Aid or maybe even like a minor procedure. But, but like identifying the source of the burnout is the most, I mean, like you cannot heal from a burnout cycle or effectively stop the burnout if you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned a few times building self-awareness.
Yes.
I think that self-awareness, I know self-awareness is a superpower for so many reasons. Yeah. But one of the biggest ones, especially as it relates to this conversation, is understanding where you source your energy from, what work and purpose fill you up.
Yeah.
And then what are the things that you really need in your life to feel fulfilled? And is what you're doing on a day-to-day giving you those things? Like you mentioned early on, not like just that your values weren't like there wasn't enough of what you were doing in your day-to-day work to make you feel like you were in alignment with your values.
Yeah. I mean, when I looked back at my experience with burnout, alignment was at the core. And I was fortunate that I was already working with a coach who was helping me along that self-awareness journey. I just wasn't far enough into it to realize it at the time that that's what it was. But as we continued on that journey, I got really clear on my values and was able then to align my work with them. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping other women do that, because so many of us haven't taken the time, the pause, to really think about what do I value, what, like you said, what lights me up, where do I get my energy, and then on the flip side, what depletes my energy, and how do I make sure that I'm living not all of my life, but most of my life in alignment with those energy sources, with those values, because that's ultimately what's going to lead to a life. I don't like to say that I'm living my purpose. I like to say I'm living on purpose. You know, one of my values is intentionality. And so I want to make sure that I'm living intentionally. And to me, that means in alignment with my values.
I love that. And I actually I love this like difference in how we view things, because I really do love like the feeling of living my purpose. I feel so, and I love like hearing your perspective on living on purpose. And and for me, I feel so aligned now with like helping people like achieve their dreams while doing so in a way where they're doing it on their terms and they're doing it in a way that just feels really good and balanced inside. Okay, so if we're talking about finding yourself and whether it's your purpose or figuring out how to live on purpose. I think that there is a massive layer of like self-discovery that comes in it. And I think like first, I mean, even just like starting with something really basic like a body scan and feeling how your body is feeling is a really good like first step to entering inward, to starting to figure out like what it is and where it is that's really like lighting you up. Because a lot of times we do just like push those things to the side when something is making us feel uncomfortable. We compartmentalize, move on, and then we never look back at what it was that gave us that feeling.
So can I interject?
Yes.
I feel like you are much more elevated in your yoga practice. and I say that as a compliment, and I'm grateful that you are, because I've learned a lot from you because of that. And so what I just want to share is that for someone who maybe has never done yoga, and maybe I'm assuming, but I'm guessing your yoga practice has helped you get better at, and meditation better at like finding where the stuckness is, right, on your body.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really, again, just being quiet. And for me, the pain, earlier you were talking about like the physical pain that can come from burnout. For me, it was all in my neck and like the side, like the right side of my body, like from my shoulders, like up to my head. And so for me, it was recognizing that I thought my jaw was out of alignment. I thought I had a tumor. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And it was just that I was carrying all of my stress right there in my body. And it wasn't until I like started sharing it with people, like I've got this pain and it just like won't go away. So like talking about it, I got this great like neck stretcher, like you talked about, like your vibration mat. Like my savior is like this little like neck foam thing that I'll like, you know, rub my neck on, or even like a hot pad to help with that if it comes back. Because I think, you know, to our point about burnout, like, again, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like I've done some like permanent damage. And so like, I know at least that's where I carry my stress.
Yep.
So for like the average egg, just like paying attention to your body. And if you're having a pain, it might not be something physical. It's physical, but it could be coming from a stressful place. Does that make sense?
Completely. That's
okay.
Like the story of my life lately. It's interesting how your body like will, you know, it's your first usually like more subtle signs of like, hey, listen to me, like something's off, listen. And it actually wasn't until I mentioned I love journaling. And I started to like the other year, whatever, started to like really dive into some like stuff through my journaling that was helping me ultimately heal, but it was hard stuff for me to work through.
Yeah.
And side note, I had a back injury when I was younger, and I've always just told a story about how I have a bad back. It's true. I have herniated discs and whatever else.
Yeah.
But I've always like, I've had physical back pain, right?
Yeah.
And so as I was having this like burnout flare up, my back, of course, hurt. I was like told that I didn't need surgery, and I was devastated because I'm like, what else do I need? And then my neck froze, and I went into my daughter's room to say goodnight the one night, and I had been laying on my heating pad. I think I had like a lidocaine patch on, and I had a thing on my neck that was like vibrating and heating, and I had wrist braces on because I was experiencing symptoms of carpal tunnel.
Yeah. And
my daughter just looked at me and she goes, Mom, what is going on? You just keep adding stuff. And that's the moment that I was like, oh, I always just was like, it's my back. It's my back. It's my back. And we just like don't pay attention to these things that are really our body's like screaming at us. Like you need to like process this.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I've never had wrist problems. But it was like as soon as I started journaling, and it was like the journaling that was causing this like deep turmoil in me, my body was like, oh, fine. Let's just get you to stop journaling then, and we'll just give you some carpal tunnel. And whatever it was, whether it was the writing or not, my wrists lit up.
Yeah.
But, okay, it's true. So the mind-body connection.
Yes, okay.
I want to talk about that quickly because I think a lot of us are quick to be like, Jess, the journaling did not cause your wrist pain, right? Psychologically at least. But hear me out, because there is an entire body of research about the mind-body connection.
Yes.
Where stress and like, you know, negative emotions stored in your mind manifest as chronic pain. And so I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I just want to say, you know, if you have a fear of public speaking. Yeah. And you have to give a big presentation. And so before you go, your heart starts racing, your palms get sweaty, and eventually you run to the bathroom and you throw up. You're nervous.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a distinct example of a feeling in your body that in your brain that your body is saying, I'm going to protect you from having to do this scary thing. So I'm going to have you throw up. Maybe you won't have to do it then. But those things, there is a growing body of research that show that there are so many psychological factors, things that go on in your mind that actually manifest as physical pain, depending on what it is that you're doing. So, okay, I digress. But I want to share a couple of my favorite things that people can do to start a journey of self-discovery that directly relate to like work-life balance and the energy that we're talking about.
Okay.
We've definitely talked about the one on here. I think if you're looking for like a tangible tool beyond like just going in your body and starting to feel more.
Yeah.
We had an episode earlier, I think, about the working genius.
Yes.
And I think that is one tool that you can use to build self-awareness, but like it goes into like how you're spending your days and doing your work, and if that aligns with like how your body works best.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So like I'm invention and discernment.
Okay.
And so I love beginnings and coming up with ideas and vetting ideas. I don't like the details.
Yes.
You are more of like you're good at all of those things, but you thrive in details.
I have no invention and wonder.
Yeah, and I don't have any wonder either. And so to be able to say, like, you know what? I'm a leader. Invention is not my skill, so that's somebody that I need on my team.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
for me to say, I love invention, but I have no follow through.
Yeah.
And very poor attention to detail.
Yes.
I'm working on it. But I know if the job that I'm doing, which this was the case back then, is really detail oriented and I'm responsible with like coming up with the ideas and executing them on my own.
Yeah.
That is a fast track to burnout.
Yeah.
And so that's one tool.
Can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
I love that you brought back Working Genius because it's a great way to discover what he calls your working geniuses, like where your highest and best use, right? Like that's what I always love to say with my team, like what is your highest and best use and how do you spend most of your time doing that, right? Because I've also read, and I don't think this was a challenge that I had, but the lack of delegation can also lead to burnout, right? Mm-hmm. Either because you've got this perfectionist syndrome where, you can't give it to somebody else because it's not going to be as good. Mm-hmm. Or, you're worried about it taking longer, whatever the reason is.
Or you outsource the wrong thing because you don't know what it is. Yeah. That, like, you feel like you should be in charge of invention because that's your role. But if you, it's just, it really helps you figure out, where to get the support you need.
Yeah, I love that you brought that back. I'll share, I'm a big fan of the DISC profile. And, in this same cycle of life where I was trying to find myself and experiencing this burnout, I went through the DISC profile. And I had done it years ago, and I think I've shared this before. But when I took it, I was an S, which is like sensing, people, relationships, but I had swung over to the C, which is compliance. Because I was working in an environment where that was demanded of me. Mm-hmm. But that is, when you look at my core values, compliance, mm-hmm. accuracy, like those are, I can do them, but those are not things that I love to do and spend a lot of my time doing. And I was doing a lot of it because my job demanded it, right? Mm-hmm. And now I know I'm living more in my S and even in my I, which is more like influential, still people focused, right? But I can tell that I'm more in alignment now. It's funny. Yesterday I was on a webinar and I was facilitating this group of amazing women. We were talking about generating new sales in insurance. And someone brought up the fact that there's just so much compliance in the group health insurance world now. And Jess, I had like a physical reaction to that because I was remembering like all of that work that I was doing in my prior role that caused stress for me and not good stress. And it was a good reminder for me that that's why there are people that are really great at that. She is one of them. That is not me. And it just, again, was just a little reinforcer that I'm on the right path.
Now, when you felt that immediate reaction.
Yeah.
What did you do in that moment? Did you reassure yourself with the things that you just said?
I was facilitating the session, so I couldn't really be like, let me pause because I need to process what just happened there. Yeah. But I definitely noticed it enough that I remembered it and I'm recalling it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay. So that's a good example of, so you have it's like a trigger, right? You have a neural pathway that was created that like causes a reaction in your body. Yeah. Okay. But instead of compartmentalizing it and carrying that feeling, because you could have done that without putting it where it needed to be.
Yeah.
You could have just carried that feeling and it would have just been one more thing filling your stress and burnout bucket.
Yeah.
But even just talking about it now.
Yeah. Releasing
it's like,
it.
Yeah. It's gone. Like, you find a way to, and that's what it's all about, is really just like the conscious and subconscious ways that we store these experiences and making sure that we process them out effectively. Sometimes the experiences happen so quickly that it's like that in the moment stress.
Yeah.
This is a different ballgame, right?
Yeah.
But I think another way that you can change the cycle and learn more about yourself is figuring out where you source your energy from.
Yes.
So some of the ways to do that, I think like one of the biggest things to really understand is if you're an introvert or an extrovert.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have an answer that we would give like really quickly.
Yeah.
Or we would be like, I'm an ambivert, which is both.
Yeah.
And there's, I think only 5% of the population or something like that is actually ambiverts.
Okay.
Like it's and it's a spectrum. So like you're not like 100% introvert or 100% extrovert most of the time. You have tendencies of both sides.
Yeah.
But I think that knowing like when you've had a really long day at work or wherever and your coworkers or friends say like, let's go out for drinks now. Mm-hmm. Like, is that like, yes, I need that. I want to burn off some steam. This is going to be great. That's going to be like energizing for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to feel like myself after I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you like, nope, I need to go home and I need to put comfy socks on and wrap myself in a warm blanket and watch a show.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yep. So you get your energy from being by yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and that's the same for me. I'm an introvert. Yeah. Definitely, I can be very extroverted in certain groups.
Mm-hmm, me too.
But I get my energy from alone time.
Yes.
And so I think that if we know that, and we know like, now it's like if we host people at my house or something, I have learned that I really need to recharge before people come. Like I need time that day to actually, this goes against everything that I have always like done, but I sit and I watch a show and I put my feet up and I'll put a heating pad or something like comfortable around me and I just take energy in. And if my kids are there, they can just like sit next to me and we'll all watch something together, but I just need that quiet moment of rest. Yeah. And then depending on like what the event or activity is, I need to make sure the next day that I'm like proactively working that time in too.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you brought this up. And I have two things to say about this. One, I feel like introverts get a bad rep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And no one wants to admit that they're an introvert. Mm-hmm. So I have made it one of my missions in life to, when I'm speaking, because earlier when you were giving that example of public speaking, I almost stopped you because I was like, that's never happened to me because I love public speaking, which is a truth.
Yes.
So I share that though to say, I can do that. Like you said, like I can be very quote unquote extroverted. I love being with people and sharing and learning and bringing people together. But then, like you said, afterwards, I need time to decompress. And so the second thing I would say is if you are in an environment, a more traditional corporate environment, you might be saying, well, that's great, Julie. You can go do a workshop and then clear your calendar the whole next day and put your cozy socks on and cuddle up. I can't do that. I have to go into the office. So I respect that and I hear you. What I would say is just try to take back some control of your calendar. So even if it's, you've got a day where you're on all day, maybe you're presenting to management or out with clients or out with partners, whatever it is, maybe just take like that morning and just be proactive and block it off ahead of time. Don't take the meeting that someone's asking for. There's probably another time you can do it. And it's not being well, maybe it is being a little selfish, and that's okay. But you will show up better for that meeting if you're an introvert, if you've taken the time to recharge your energy, right? And so you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to that person who's asking to meet with you. So yeah, maybe you can't take the next day off and sit in your cozy socks, but you can carve some time out for yourself.
I think there's two things I want to say to that. Like, prioritizing your own self-care the same way you prioritize other appointments on your calendar. So, put that in there like it is an appointment, and you don't have to label it but you're busy, and you can just put an appointment there. It says busy.
And you don't schedule over it.
Right.
You don't look at it and say, oh, that was just my busy time.
Because if you're not going to be, like, if you're not self-disciplined to, like, keep it, to keep your own appointments, like, what is that, what is your nervous system learning, from those habits? But I think that the other piece to that is, like, even if you can't block a whole section, or maybe right now, like, you're feeling burned out and your schedule you don't have full control over yet, you taking micro moments of like comfort and safety are also really important, and you also have to kind of dig deep to know what those are. So, like, a micro moment of safety might be, I have this amazing, like, weighted blanket that I just, like, love. It's so cozy, and when my body is just, like, screaming at me to do something different, I will just, like, curl up in my chair with a book for 20 minutes in my office. I close the door, put my little sign up that my kids more or less know, not to bother me, and I just wrap myself in that, and maybe I'll put, like, a heating pad under it, or but, like, knowing what those things are that just make your body feel good, because that's, like, your nervous system just wants to feel safe and comfortable, and so it's like, even if you can't, like, block 3 hours or 2 hours, wake up 20 minutes early, or, like, throw your hair in a ponytail that morning and don't like curl it or something, right? And just give yourself that, like, care, like, nurture your body the way that, like, you might nurture a sick child or something.
Did you make that up, micro moment of safety?
No, actually, somebody else asked me that. I mean, yes and no. Yes, I put some words. I read something about when I was healing my nervous system, about how my nervous system was craving safety, and how it's about, like, starting small with like safe spaces and stuff. And I don't know, I guess I just started saying micro moments of safety.
I love that.
Yeah. So, but I think we can all use that for, like, whatever it is that we need, like micro moments of comfort, micro moments of safety, whatever it is. But you really have to, like, take that time to go inside and figure out, like, what is your body telling you that it needs. Even if it's just more water, I don't know, but, like, we ignore everything.
Okay, so self-discovery. We've mentioned some tools, Working Genius, DISC. We talked a little bit about introvert, extrovert.
On that
what
note,
else?
Okay, so here's one that affects 20% of the population. So
Okay.
only 1 in 5, but it's really important because I don't think a lot of people are fully aware of the trait high sensitivity. And high sensitivity and introversion are not the same. More people who are, it's called an HSP, or a highly sensitive person.
Okay.
More HSPs are introverts than extroverts.
Okay.
But totally different trait. And basically, it's somebody who was born with just a really heightened nervous system. You are sensitive to every single cue going on around you. You are absorbing, like, the stimuli at a very rapid pace. So, like, you're probably really sensitive to things like either smells or sounds. Like, if you find yourself sitting in, the family room and the kids like to watch the TV at a level that feels, like, obnoxiously loud, they might be listening to it at an obnoxiously loud level, but you might also just have a really heightened nervous system. Tastes, candles that smell too strong for you. But so people who are highly sensitive also have a tendency to experience overwhelm at a higher rate. And so I'm a highly sensitive person. And actually, I know at least one of my kids is too. And we've worked through a lot of when they were really young, like, behavioral stuff and emotional stuff, through knowing what high sensitivity meant. But I know that I also need a little bit of extra, like, care for my nervous system for that reason. Or, like, if I walk in the house and there's a candle burning and I'm like, what is that smell? Like, I'm not just like, oh, I should be able to deal with this. It's a candle. I usually just like blow it out nonchalantly. And
I'm glad I don't have a candle burning today.
Yeah, I probably would have blown it out. Yeah, but it is, I think, but so they're like, because we're so we're so prone to just like sweeping our needs under the rug.
Yeah.
These things seem so obvious, but until you're really like in touch with them, you just don't notice them. You just like, you gaslight yourself into like believing that it's not the way that it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any other, I mean, creativity, I think, is another way that you can learn yourself. That's more of like a higher realm thing. But when you do find hobbies that you love, I think it's a twofold thing where you get to experience the joy associated with the hobby, but I think you can also learn a lot about yourself through like that experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up here, I think that there are questions that we can each ask ourselves if we're starting to like experience, if we think we might be experiencing burnout, but we're not sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to rattle a few of them off. So if you are feeling any of these things, it's a really good idea to just like pause and focus on your breathing, and then, start to really go inward. But these are some of the questions you can ask yourself to figure out if you're moving into burnout. So if you do a body scan meditation, how are you feeling? Are you feeling tired? Are you experiencing pain anywhere in your body? Is there anything that's unfamiliar to you? Does any part of your body feel unfamiliar? Do you feel stuck or unmotivated? How creative do you feel, or how quickly can you tap into your creativity? How patient do you feel? How long does it take you to bounce back from setbacks? How well are you sleeping? How often are you getting sick, and how long is it taking you to heal from your sickness? Do you feel clear-headed? How well are you concentrating? How's your social life? Are you feeling motivated to connect, or does that feel like a chore? How well are you paying attention to your own personal needs? And are you feeling any sense of like losing control over your own time or energy? Yeah. So do you have anything to add?
Just that's a really good list. And I think for anyone who struggles with journaling or doesn't know where to start with journaling, just taking a handful of those questions and writing out your answers to them could be a good place to start.
And I think one thing I want to layer on top of that, I feel like we could talk about this forever, but when you journal, I have found that, especially if I'm starting to get into something that feels like a little deeper, or like I think there's always like in the back of my mind, like what if somebody finds my journal? And whether we realize we're doing it or not, we like censor what we're writing because of that. So if that feels relevant at all to you, I challenge you to write a journal entry, either in like a Google Doc that you have full intentions of permanently deleting, or in a journal that you plan on ripping the pages out and burning them afterwards, because I think your body will sometimes like release a little bit more when there's not like that layer of like, what if?
Yeah.
So, okay, as is the new tradition of this season, we are talking about what we're excited about.
Yes.
So, Julie, what are you excited about this week?
I am excited for my daughter's first dance competition. Yes, Yay. I am a dance mom. And
so fun.
Proud of it. And I love it. I love it for so many reasons. One, I don't know if there's anything better than watching your kids do something that they just truly love, and that's the case with my daughter and dance. And second, it's not just my daughter. There's a lot of dance that happens at these competitions. It's a creative process, right? And so it's just really inspiring to watch these kids, because they're children, express themselves through their bodies. It's just really, it's a beautiful thing. So I'm very excited about that. How about you?
I'm going to have to join you on one of these
You have to come.
dance shows.
Yeah.
I know, I would love that. We have all of the soccer this weekend, of course. But, okay, I'm excited because I am just about to finish my astrology course.
Oh.
I know, I have to record a reading, and a couple of other things, but it's like super close. So
Fun.
I've been like dreaming into what I'm going to offer for astrology, because like I want to do like business first, but I've come up with this like business lens, like a natal chart reading through the business lens, like career focused, purpose if you want it. So I'm formulating that, and I'm actually really excited to start doing that, because I find like the more I dive into people's natal charts, it's like, I don't know, it's like presenting this entire like map of their inner universe that they had no clue existed.
Yeah.
And it's so fun.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really, not that astrology hasn't been around forever, but I feel like the relationship to business is really like up and coming. So I'm excited that you're on the forefront of that.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll read your chart for you.
Again?
Well, but your business chart. I did your big 3. So, I mean,
Which I loved. Yeah.
We have layers and layers to dive into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that again.
All right. Well, until next time, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.